this lesson, we're going to learn about the different triads. The first triad you see on the left is a major triad. The second triad right here is a minor triad. Notice the flat on the third. The next triad you see is a diminished triad, the flat third and the flat fifth. The last triad you see is an augmented chord. Notice the sharp on the fifth. When we break this down, we're looking at a C major triad to start. We pick C because C is the easiest with no flats or sharps in the key signature. So we're looking at a key of C. In the key of C, there's no flats or sharps. Thus, there are no flats or sharps anywhere else in the chord, which makes this chord a major chord. In the second example, we have lowered the third by a half a step. Because we've lowered the third by a half a step, we make this is called a minor chord. In this case, it's a C minor chord. Now this would work with any kind of key. For example, in the key of G, the triad would be G, B, and D. We would flat the third, which would be a B, which would be make it turn into a G, B flat, and D. In some cases, if the middle note is a sharp, for example, the key of A major triad would be A, C sharp, and E. We would actually lower it by actually making it a natural, not making it a flat. So to make an A minor, we would just be A, C, E. Notice that the third isn't flat, it's just natural at that point in time. That's why, even though we're making this a flat, I like to say we're lowering the third. We are not flattening the third, we are lowering the third by 1/2 step. We're going to jump over to the next chord example. Like I said before, it's a diminished chord. We've lowered the third and we've lowered the fifth, because in the key of C, the E should be natural and the G should be natural. But because the E and the G have been flatted or lowered by 1/2 step, this makes this a diminished chord. We jump over to the last example here. We have an augmented chord. The G, the fifth, root third fifth, the fifth has been raised by 1/2 step. Not sharped, but raised 1/2 step. In this example, it has been sharped. In other examples, it could be lowered. Here's a good example of a different kind of chord. Before we were dealing with the key of C, now we're dealing with the key of E. In the key of E, you have 4 sharps. Those 4 sharps are F, C, G, and D. So since one of the 4 sharps is a G, this is a sharped. This third becomes sharped. So we have E, G sharp, B is a major triad, major chord in the E major. So again, if to make the chord a minor chord, like this chord right here, we've lowered the third by 1/2 step. It was sharp, and now it is not sharped, naturaled. Thus makes it a minor chord. In the diminished chord, to make a diminished triad, we have to lower the third and lower the fifth. Beforehand, the third was sharp. Now the third is natural. Beforehand, the fifth was natural, and now the fifth has been lowered a 1/2 step, makes it flat. In this example, you can see in the augmented chord how the fifth, which is normally natural with a B, has become a B sharp. B sharp being the same thing as a C, except to be spelled wrong, so which way this is called B sharp. So a B sharp is a fifth, and the fifth has been raised a 1/2 step with a sharp. That's what makes it an augmented chord. The third is still a sharp because that's what it should be. The only thing we've changed in this chord is we've raised the fifth by a 1/2 step. So a major triad, everything should be in the key. A minor triad, the third should be lowered a 1/2 step. A diminished triad, the third and the fifth should be lowered a 1/2 step. And an augmented triad, the fifth should be raised by 1/2 step.